welcome back. You know how sometimes you just wish you could sound a little more confident when you speak English? Well, get this. We're going to deep dive into this episode all about talking fast and sounding smart. And I got to say, I'm kind of skeptical.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing to be.
But I'm also super intrigued by this whole idea.
It's a fascinating topic for sure. You know, there's this common perception that fast talkers, they just sound more persuasive, more intelligent, right?
Yeah, like they just know what they're talking about.
Exactly. And this episode we're diving into digs into that perception and explores, why we might actually fall for it, why we believe that.
So it's kind of like a magic trick then. Like, is it all just smoke and mirrors, or is there something more to it, something real?
That's the big question, isn't it? Well, the research they talk about in the episodes suggests there is some connection between speaking speed and how intelligent people think you are.
Interesting. So there is something to it.
Yeah, but like you said, is it just perception? Or is there something more? Yeah, exactly, because it really makes me think about, those super smooth salespeople or politicians who can just talk a mile a minute.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You just can't help but get drawn in.
Right. It's almost like our brains, they equate speed with competence automatically,
Yeah.
even if what they're saying is completely meaningless.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Like they could be saying absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and that's where the danger lies.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that old saying, empty vessels make the most noise.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so that's a really important point. We can't just speed up our speech and suddenly expect to sound like brilliant geniuses, right?
Exactly. There needs to be something more. There has to be substance behind the words, right?
Yeah, for sure. Substance over speed.
Absolutely. And the hosts of the episode, they really emphasize that clarity. That's key. There's no point in talking super fast if nobody can understand what you're saying.
Totally. It's like you're just mumbling a mile a minute. It defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. Mumbling at high speed just doesn't work.
So clear speech comes first and then the speed. That makes a lot of sense. But, I think a lot of us, especially English learners, we kind of get hung up on wanting to sound more fluent, more native-like, and that makes us want to rush our speech sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's really common. And the podcast, they actually break down some of the most common challenges that English learners face when it comes to speaking faster.
I can definitely relate to that feeling of wanting to just sound more fluent, like it's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and they hit the nail on the head. That desire can actually make you overthink, which ironically slows you down.
Yeah, it's like your brain is doing all these mental gymnastics in the background trying to translate everything on the fly.
Exactly. They describe it like trying to run a marathon, but you're carrying a dictionary in each hand.
Oh, yeah, that's a great analogy. It's like so much extra weight slowing you down.
Right. So their suggestion is to try and train your brain to just think directly in English.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like describe your surroundings to yourself in English. Think through your day all in English. It helps build that mental muscle memory.
It's like you're creating a shortcut in your brain. The less translating you have to do, the faster you'll be able to speak.
Exactly. And another challenge they highlight is the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, tell me about it.
So many learners are just terrified to speak up because they're so worried about being perfect about making mistakes.
I remember being absolutely petrified of mispronouncing a word or messing up the grammar. I was so focused on being perfect that I would barely speak at all.
And ironically, that's what holds so many learners back.
Yeah.
Native speakers, they make mistakes all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They stumble, they correct themselves, they laugh it off. But the important thing is they keep talking.
Yeah, they just keep going.
Exactly. So the episode really emphasizes the need to embrace those mistakes. Just see them as part of the learning process.
It's like giving yourself permission to be human. We all make mistakes. And it's okay. It's how we learn and how we grow.
Exactly. Mistakes are just part of the journey.
For sure. And speaking of making mistakes, pronunciation, that can be a huge hurdle for a lot of people, especially when you're trying to speak quickly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. English has some pretty tricky sounds, and it can feel really overwhelming sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely stumbled over my fair share of English words. Some of those vowel sounds are just brutal.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But the episode, they point out that mastering contractions and connected speech can really help with this.
Wait, can you explain what connected speech is? I've heard that term before, but I'm honestly not entirely sure what it means.
Sure. So connected speech is basically how we naturally blend words together when we're speaking.
Okay.
Like saying, I'm gonna, instead of I am going to, or wanna instead of want to.
Yeah.
It creates this smoother, faster flow.
Okay, I get it. So it's like those sounds, they're doing a little dance together instead of being all separate and choppy.
Exactly. And it not only makes you sound more fluent, but it also helps you speak faster without even realizing it. It's like a secret weapon.
Okay, I'm adding connected speech to my fluency arsenal. But sometimes it's not just the pronunciation, it's the mental effort of like trying to construct sentences from scratch. It can feel like you're building a house brick by brick, and that takes time.
Yeah, you're so right. It's like a mental workout every time you speak. And the podcast, they recommend memorizing common phrases and sentence patterns. Things like, I think that, or I'd like to, gives you those building blocks for quicker responses.
It's like having a toolbox of pre-made phrases that you can just pull out in any situation, you know? It saves you so much time and mental energy.
Exactly. And finally, the biggest takeaway of all practice is everything. You can listen to podcasts and read books all day long, but if you don't actually speak the language, your brain won't get used to forming those words quickly.
Makes total sense. It's like any skill, the more you use it, the better you become.
Exactly. So to sum up what we've learned so far, it seems like fast talkers often do sound smarter because our brains make that connection between speed and competence without even thinking about it. But real fluency requires more than just speed. We need clarity, substance, and consistent practice.
So it's not just about talking fast. It's about talking, well, that's a great way to put it. I'm really curious to learn more about the techniques they recommend for achieving that balance of speed and clarity. Okay, so we've uncovered those secrets behind why those fast talkers, they often sound so smart. And we've kind of explored the challenges that English learners face when they're, trying to speed up their speech. But now let's get to the good stuff, the practical tips and techniques that can actually help us talk faster and smarter. What are the real gems that we can take away from this episode?
Well, they actually offered a ton of really actionable advice that I think anyone can start using right away.
Oh, perfect.
And it's not just about like complicated drills or hours of practice.
Mm.
It's about incorporating simple, effective habits into your daily life.
Ooh, I love that. Small changes, big results, right? I'm all about making things easy and sustainable. What were some of their favorite everyday habits?
One of the simplest yet most powerful habits they recommend is something they call becoming a narrator of your own life.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm picturing myself walking around with a microphone narrating my every move, like a reality show.
Well, not quite that dramatic,
Yeah.
but it's about getting into the habit of describing your actions out loud in English as you go about your day.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, if you're making breakfast, you might say, I'm pouring the cereal into the bowl, or I'm adding milk.
So it's like giving my inner monologue this English voiceover.
Exactly.
I can definitely see how that would help you start to think and speak in English more naturally. So like no more translating in your head.
Exactly. It kind of bridges that gap between your thoughts and your speech, and it makes the words flow more easily.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more automatic it becomes.
It's like you're training your brain to think in English without even realizing it.
Exactly. It's like a secret fluency hack.
Hidden in plain sight.
Right. And if you want to take it a step further, they suggest trying something called voice journaling.
Voice journaling.
Have you ever tried that?
I haven't, but I've heard about it.
Ah,
It's like having a conversation with yourself, right? But instead of writing in a diary, you're talking out loud and recording it.
exactly. You can just grab your phone or a voice recorder and just chat about your day, your thoughts, anything that comes to mind.
Yeah.
All in English.
And just talk to yourself.
Yeah. Aim for maybe a minute or two at first, and then gradually increase the time as you get more comfortable.
You know what I love about that? It's so private. Like you can experiment with different speaking styles, try out new words, even make mistakes without feeling self-conscious at all.
Totally.
Like
It's like a
that.
judgment-free zone for your English practice.
Yeah, exactly. And then the best part is you can listen back to those recordings and you get these incredible insights into your own speaking patterns. Like you hear yourself from a different perspective.
It's so helpful.
Yeah, you'll notice where you hesitate, where you use filler words, even how your pronunciation is progressing. It's like having a personal language coach in your pocket.
That's a great way to put it.
You can really track your progress and pinpoint those areas where you need to focus. I'm definitely going to try that.
I think you'll find it really helpful.
Yeah, and speaking of connecting with others, the hosts they also emphasize the importance of like seeking out real-life conversations whenever possible.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's just no substitute for interacting with real people.
Mm.
It's where you can put your skills to the test and really learn from others.
Exactly. It's like the ultimate proving ground for your English.
Yeah. And they recommend joining online English-speaking groups or trying language exchange apps or even looking for local conversation clubs in your area. It's all about creating those opportunities for authentic communication.
Yeah, and I think that's where the real magic happens when you're using English to connect with others, to share ideas, to build relationships. It
Mhm.
takes the pressure off of being perfect and just shifts the focus to genuine communication.
You're so right. And if you're not quite ready to jump into those full-blown conversations,
Mm-hmm.
they also suggest starting with maybe AI chatbots or speech-to-text apps, just as a way to kind of get your feet wet.
I love how technology can kind of create those stepping stones for language learners, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
It's like having this practice partner that's available 24/7.
Exactly. And it can help you build confidence and fluency in a more low-pressure environment.
Awesome. So we've got narration, we've got voice journaling, and real life conversations. What other techniques did they recommend for like boosting our fluency?
Well, one that they kept coming back to was the power of speed reading drills.
Oh, yeah, those are fun. It's like a game where you challenge yourself to read as fast as you can while still maintaining clarity.
Yeah,
I used to do those all the time when I was learning English.
they're a fantastic way to train your brain and your mouth to work together at a faster pace.
Mm.
And you can do them with anything. Song lyrics, news articles, even passages from your favorite books.
It's like a win-win, you know? You're improving your reading speed and your speaking fluency at the same time. And it's such a simple activity that you can fit into your day, even if you only have like a few minutes.
Exactly. And finally, they stress the importance of immersing yourself in fast-paced English media. Things like podcasts, TV shows, movies.
Ah, yes, the entertainment factor. I'm all for making language learning enjoyable. You know, it's like sneaking in your practice while you're having a good time.
Exactly. And it's a really effective way to train your ear to understand native speakers when they're speaking at a faster pace. Plus, you'll naturally pick up new vocabulary expressions and even cultural insights along the way.
It's like a language immersion experience without having to leave your living room.
Exactly.
So to recap, we've got narration, voice journaling, real-life conversations, speed reading drills, and immersion in fast-paced media. It sounds like a pretty comprehensive toolkit for fluency.
It really is. And the beauty of it is you can choose the techniques that resonate with you the most and fit into your lifestyle. It's all about making English a natural part of your world.
I love that. It's not about forcing yourself to study for hours on end. It's about finding those little pockets of time throughout your day where you can just sprinkle in some English practice. It's about making it a habit, a lifestyle, rather than a chore.
You've summed it up perfectly. It's about integrating English into your daily routine in a way that feels natural and enjoyable.
So we've kind of laid this solid foundation with these everyday habits, and now I'm really eager to take it to the next level. What are some of those more advanced techniques that can really elevate our fluency and make our English shine?
Welcome back. It feels like we've covered so much already.
Mm-hmm.
From the psychology of fast talking to those everyday habits that can make a real difference, I feel like we've leveled up our fluency game big time.
I think we've built a really solid foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, but now in this final part, we're going to explore those finishing touches, the techniques that can really polish your English and make it shine.
It's like the icing on the cake.
I'm ready for the grand finale. What are those advanced techniques that can take our fluency to that next level? Well, one thing they really emphasized was the importance of fine-tuning our pronunciation, even when we're speaking quickly.
That makes sense because, I mean, even if you're talking a mile a minute, if your pronunciation is sloppy, it's all for nothing, right?
Exactly. It's like the difference between a rough draft and a polished manuscript.
Hmm.
The content might be there, but the presentation can make or break it.
Oh, yeah, totally. So how do we make sure our pronunciation is on point, even when we're speeding things up?
Well, the podcast hosts, they recommend focusing on those tricky sounds that often trip up English learners. Those sounds that make you twist your tongue into knots?
I know those all too well. Like, I remember spending hours trying to master the difference between ship and sheep or rice and lice.
Those are classic examples. They actually have a name, minimal pairs. Words that differ by just one sound. The hosts suggest practicing these minimal pairs diligently. Really pay attention to those subtle differences.
It's like doing a workout for your tongue.
Exactly. And they had a great tip record yourself, saying those tricky words. And then compare your pronunciation to a native speaker. You'll be amazed at what you can pick up when you hear yourself from a different perspective.
It's like having a pronunciation mirror. You can instantly see where you need to adjust. I'm definitely going to try that.
I think you'll find it really helpful. And another thing they focused on was mastering the rhythm and flow of English, even at faster speeds. That natural rise and fall that makes spoken English so dynamic and engaging.
It's like the music of the language. And I've noticed that sometimes when I try to speak faster, I kind of lose that musicality. It starts to sound a bit robotic.
That's a common challenge.
Yeah.
And the hosts had a beautiful suggestion. Listen to music and poetry in English.
Oh, I love that. It's like training your ear while enjoying beautiful art. It doesn't even feel like work.
Exactly. Pay attention to the way the words are stressed, the pauses between phrases, the overall melody of the language. It's like learning to dance to the rhythm of English.
I love that analogy. And then once you've kind of tuned your ear to those patterns, you can start to mimic them in your own speech. I can see how that would make a huge difference.
It's all about internalizing those natural patterns.
Exactly. Yeah. And had another great tip, pay attention to the intonation of native speakers. You know, the way their voices rise and fall to kind of convey different emotions or emphasize certain words.
Intonation is so powerful. It's like those subtle nuances that add so much depth and interest to your speech.
Exactly. And they recommend recording yourself reading a short passage and then listening back, focusing specifically on your intonation. Like, do you notice any places where it sounds flat or monotone? Are you emphasizing the right words?
It's a great way to become more aware of those subtle cues.
Yeah, it's like becoming your own voice coach.
Hmm.
You can really fine-tune those details and make your English sound more natural and expressive.
And remember, fluency isn't just about speed. It's also about clarity, confidence, and impact.
So true. It's not enough to just speak quickly. We want our words to be understood, to resonate with others, to leave a lasting impression.
And the podcast hosts, they really emphasize the importance of speaking with intention, even when you're speaking quickly. It's about being mindful of your message, even when you're delivering it at a faster pace.
So it's not just about getting the words out there. It's about crafting a message that truly connects.
Exactly. And they suggest practicing your delivery, even for everyday conversations. It might sound a bit strange, but even if you're just chatting with a friend or a colleague, take a moment to think about what you want to say, how you want to say it, and the overall impression you want to make.
So it's like rehearsing a mini presentation for every interaction, even the casual ones.
In a way, yes. But it's not about being stiff or formal. It's about being mindful, intentional, and confident in your communication.
And I think that confidence really shines through when you're speaking clearly, fluently, and with purpose. It's like you're in control of your message, and that's a really powerful feeling.
Absolutely. And remember, fluency is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, that's such an important reminder. It's easy to get discouraged when you hit those inevitable bumps in the road, but it's all about embracing those challenges and celebrating the progress you make along the way.
Well said. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our fluency boot camp. We've explored the psychology of fast talking, unlocked this treasure trove of practical techniques, and even delved into those advanced skills that can really elevate your English.
It's been an incredible journey. I feel like I've gained so much knowledge and confidence in my ability to speak English, fluently and effectively.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, the key to success is consistency. Just keep practicing those sounds, embrace those rhythms, and most importantly, speak with confidence.
And don't forget to have fun. The more you enjoy the process, the more naturally fluent you'll become.
Absolutely. So go out there, embrace those conversations, and let your English shine.
Until next time, happy speaking.